Welcome to Carsey Oaks channel with daily story updates. Remember to subscribe. The story begins. The year I was diagnosed with a hereditary heart condition, my fiancé chose to break off the engagement. Then he and my half-sister Sophia, my stepsister, went public with their relationship. When I was at my most desperate, my attending physician, Ethan, took my hand. In fact, with proper treatment and regular checkups, this disease will not affect your life. Emily, I will be by your side, so you must persevere. I thought I had found a turning point in my life, but after a blood test, I overheard him talking to a colleague. Ethan, the new heart medication, are you really not going to prescribe it to your sister-in-law? Ethan was silent for a while, and then sighed and said, if she gets better, she won't need to come for monthly blood tests. Sophia has anemia, and she is Rh negative. Only if Emily survives will Sophia continue to have blood to use. But isn't that a bit unfair on my sister-in-law? I treat Emily well every day, and that's enough. It's time for the monthly blood test. I clench my fists as the needle pierces my skin. The red liquid quickly fills the 200 milliliters mark. There you go, Miss Emily. Nurse Jessica expertly removes the needle. As I stand up, everything suddenly goes dark. My body shakes uncontrollably. Miss Emily, are you okay? I'm fine. I sat against the wall, barely smiling and waving my hand. But Jessica, do I have to have so much blood taken every time I get checked? A trace of tension flashed across Jessica's face as she lowered her head and began to pack up the instruments. This was Dr. Ethan's advice, to draw more blood so that each item can be examined more carefully. I said helplessly, Ethan is a person who is simply too serious about me. Back then, when I was diagnosed with congenital heart disease, my fiancé canceled the engagement. Facing the media's daily questioning at my doorstep, I almost broke down. It was Ethan who stood in front of me. Emily, I have always liked you. Can I let you take care of you in the future? Ethan said these words, like a ray of light illuminating my dark life. I don't know why. After hearing what I said, Jessica looked at me with a complicated look. Although she wanted to say something, she finally silently packed her things and left. I sat down for a while to rest, and send Ethan a message. Today I smoked 200 milliliters again. Your wife is amazing. Remember to make me a nourishing chicken soup tonight. I didn't receive a reply for a while. Maybe Ethan was still at work. I supported my tired body and slowly walked towards his office. I heard a voice inside, and couldn't help but laugh. I was about to push open the door. The new heart disease treatment drug introduced in our hospital really isn't intended for Emily? My hand stopped at the door handle. I know. After these 2 blood draws, she won't even be able to stand up. Ethan interrupted impatiently, but if she gets better, there won't be any need for blood draws. So what about Sophia's anemia? But isn't this a bit unfair to Miss Emily? She trusts you so much and loves you so much. Fair? There is no such thing as fairness in this world. I have also lost my love. Is that considered fair? You say Emily loves me? Fine. Then I will treat her well every day she is alive. That is enough. I stood outside the door, feeling cold all over, as if even the blood was not flowing. It turned out that all the care and attention he had shown me over the years was actually to enable me to provide Sophia with blood. Even his marriage to me was all about helping Sophia marry her fiancé's family. It's ridiculous. I thought I was being saved, but it was all a carefully planned hoax. I heard footsteps approaching. I leaned against the wall, trying to escape, but my body kept shaking and tears kept flowing down my face. Emily? Ethan opened the door and saw me. His face immediately changed. What are you doing here? But he quickly calmed down and said with a smile, are you here for me? I nodded without saying anything. As usual, he took my hand tenderly in his and kissed the needle marks on it. You've worked hard, my wife. Medicine has come a long way. These little things are nothing. Emily, don't be afraid. I'll always be here for you. In the past, I would have been very touched. But now, a chill ran down my spine. He had no intention of letting me get better. When we got home, Ethan told me to rest while he prepared the chicken soup. Those precious hands that used to operate on me were now casually chopping vegetables. Before, I felt so bad for him and didn't want him to do these things. But he said, if I can't even take care of my wife, then these hands are useless. He said it sincerely, and did it perfectly. For Sophia, he was actually willing to work so hard to please a woman he didn't even love. While Ethan was busy in the kitchen, I went into his study, which was not locked. On the bookshelf I found his graduation photo. Ethan was wearing a graduation gown and smiling happily. The girl next to him was Sophia. A heart had been drawn between them in red crayon. In a drawer was a single photo of Sophia when she was 18 years old. On the back was written, "Love and eternity, forever and ever, my one and only love." Underneath the photo was a thick stack of receipts. It records many valuable gifts. Last month, I noticed that Sophia was wearing a new Cartier necklace and I felt a little envious. That evening, Ethan brought me back a replica. "Honey, I can't afford the real thing right now, but as soon as I've saved up enough, I'll buy you the real thing every day." I was so moved that I could hardly find the words to express my feelings, and I felt that I really didn't deserve his kindness. But then I found out that the real necklace Sophia was wearing was actually bought by him. Ethan is young, but he has already reached the level of director. However, he has never had much spare money, and he even lives in my house. He always says that he spends his money on entertainment and helping poor relatives. In fact, most of his money goes on buying Sophia things. Where a man spends his money shows what he is emotionally attached to. I gave a small smile, took out my own pills from my bag, and gently placed them at the bottom of the drawer. I have no intention of taking the pills anymore. I don't want to treat the illness anymore. I don't want a man who doesn't like me. The meal was served, and Ethan carefully asked me to sit down. "Emily, your father just called to say that he'll come tomorrow to celebrate your birthday." Before he could finish, my phone suddenly lit up, and Ethan subconsciously glanced at it as well. It was a text message about a successful boat ticket reservation. His expression suddenly became nervous, and he asked, "Emily, what boat ticket did you book? Where are you going?" I said calmly, "I booked it for a friend." Ethan looked at me carefully for a while, and when he saw that I hadn't changed, he let out a sigh of relief. "Emily, don't be nervous. If you don't want to go to your father's place, we can just not go. But you can't leave me. If I've upset you in any way, you can scold me and hit me, and even find ways to get back at me, just don't suddenly disappear. And you can't give up hope." I smiled and replied, "Okay, I won't leave you, and I definitely won't give up on living." That night, I don't know if he sensed something, but Ethan kept holding me tightly. He kept mumbling in his sleep, "Emily, we promised not to leave each other." I looked at him indifferently. "Ethan, you can lie to me, but I can lie to you too. That's only fair." When I was 6, my mother died, and my father took Sophia, who was 5, and her mother back home. It turned out that he had another family on the side. Everyone said that if a child had a stepmother, it meant that it also had a stepfather. My father disliked me more and more, under the various accusations of Sophia and her mother, thinking that I had poor grades, loved to lie, and had stolen money from home. I had no way to explain, and could only silently endure his punishment again and again, leaving many scars on my body. After graduating, I thought I could finally escape it all. Unexpectedly, I found out that I had inherited a heart condition. "Oh, the Smith family's eldest daughter is back." My stepmother interrupted my thoughts with a sarcastic tone. "Aunt Lily." I simply said hello and walked straight into the Smith family. Today was my father's 60th birthday, and many relatives had come. Everyone was discussing, is this really the eldest daughter of the old Smith? Why does she look so listless? You're right. She does have that disease, doesn't she? Oh dear, what a pity. Such a pretty girl. Yes, look at Sophia. She's a year younger than her, full of confidence and sunshine. I hear her fiancé is also rich and handsome. My stepmother covered her mouth and laughed a little ironically, but then she took my arm affectionately and said, "Don't say such useless things. Emily and Sophia are both my daughters." With the support of her father and me, Emily's illness will definitely get better. By the way, Emily's husband is also a doctor. He is in the study. Come, I'll take you to him. She led me outside the study. 2 familiar voices came from inside. "If he treats you badly, you must tell me. Brother Ethan, in fact, you should be the one to worry. My sister has been spoiled by the family since she was young, and she used to bully me when we were kids. Is marrying her a source of grievance for you?" "It's Ethan and Sophia." Ethan sighed and said, "It's not a matter of grievance. Anyway, she doesn't have much longer to live, so I'll try to satisfy her needs as much as I can." "Brother Ethan, thank you. I know it's all because of me. Sophia, We don't need to be so polite with each other. As long as you're happy, I'm willing to do anything. My body kept shaking, but my stepmother smirked and knocked on the door, saying, Sophia, your sister's here. There was a moment of silence, and then the sound of clothes rustling. Ethan hurried out, the top button of his shirt fastened incorrectly, and Sophia's lipstick applied unevenly. Emily, Sophia was asking how you are. She cares about you. Yes, sister. Sophia blushed slightly and covered her mouth with her hand as she laughed. I noticed the diamond bracelet on her wrist sparkling in the sunlight. I asked, is this a new bracelet? Yes, it's only 20,000 yuan, but it's really beautiful. I love it so much. Ethan beamed with satisfaction. My father returned home shortly after. At the dinner table, he chatted animatedly with his relatives, and Sophia let loose and drank quite a bit. My father said happily, that's my girl. Emily, would you like a drink? I responded indifferently, you forgot that I'm sick and can't drink. Oh, it's my father's fault. My father looked at me with a bit of disappointment in his eyes when he said that. Dad, Emily can't drink. I'll drink with you. Ethan had just raised his glass. Dad, I'm late. It was Michael who came in, looking very handsome in his sunglasses. He used to be my fiancé, but now he's Sophia's fiancé. My father was delighted and called him over to introduce him to everyone. This is my son-in-law, Michael. His family owns a business, you know? I hear they're very rich. The guests started talking, and it seemed that everyone was even more envious of Sophia's choice. Sophia smiled shyly and gave Michael a friendly pat on the back when he sat back down. Ethan kept drinking, his face showing a bitter expression. Emily, your brother-in-law is here, and as an older sister you should have a drink. Don't refuse this time, you don't feel well. This time, no one came to block my drink. Ethan's eyes only had Sophia's figure. I smiled and raised my glass, tilting my head and gulping it down. The cold liquid made my throat sting a little. Dad, I'll drink the wine, but I have an afternoon checkup, so I have to go. Okay, go ahead. Checkup? Ethan looked up, his eyes a little confused. He glanced at me and then turned to Sophia. Emily, can you go by yourself? I've had a little too much to drink. I'll be back later. I lowered my head and suppressed the tears that instantly welled up in my eyes. He really was drunk. He was my attending physician, but now he couldn't even tell if I had had the test or not. In the hospital's freezer, I saw the blood plasma I had stored, bright red and obvious. Miss Emily, please don't report me. It was Dr. Ethan who told me to do this. Nurse Jessica's face turned pale. I gave a small smile, took the bags of plasma and walked out the door. No matter what, I was not willing to use my body as nourishment to make Sophia bloom. Just as I was about to pour the plasma into the trash can, Sophia suddenly rushed over. Emily, what are you doing? This is the plasma I need to transfuse tomorrow. I have anemia. Without this bag of plasma, how am I going to get through this month? I looked at her coldly. This blood is mine, and I decide whether to give it to you. Sophia looked at me in surprise. You know already? She suddenly laughed. Oh, what's the point of knowing? You'll still just be my tool in the end. What a waste! He cares so much about Ethan, but you're still not in his heart. You noticed yesterday, didn't you? He gave me that bracelet. We were making out before you came in. He told me he was in pain, that he only cared about me, but had to deal with you. I felt a surge of anger and unease, as if something was stuck in my throat, and I couldn't help coughing. Don't get me started. Sophia didn't like it and moved aside, but suddenly her foot slipped, and she screamed as she fell to the ground, her forehead quickly swelling. At this time, Ethan rushed over from the side, without even noticing me, and hurriedly helped Sophia up. Sophia, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Sophia ran into his arms, crying, Ethan brother, sister, sister. She pushed me. Ethan looked at me, his eyes full of an unprecedented coldness. Emily, that's enough. You've been bullying Sophia since you were little, and now you're almost gone. Can you be a little more compassionate? Save some good name for yourself. Ethan, don't say that about your sister. Ethan didn't hear her, and simply picked Sophia up, ignoring her. I'll take you to see if you're hurt. Does it hurt? I watched them leave without emotion, and the last shred of warmth in my heart disappeared. It was over. 2 hours later, Ethan sent an explanatory text message. Emily, I was just joking. You know Sophia's fiancé is very rich, and I was afraid of offending him and putting you in a difficult position. I'll be back as soon as I'm done here. Do you like Sophia's bracelet? I'll buy you a cheaper one from the same brand, okay? The craftsmanship is the same. Don't be angry. I was too lazy to respond to him and was about to turn off my phone when it vibrated again. It was a recording from Sophia, Ethan's brother. Emily's got a lot of blood. It's all yours. And mine's yours too. But this is the office. I quickly turned off the recording, took a deep breath, and tried to control the feeling of nausea. My fingers trembled as I pulled out the SIM card and decisively threw it into the sea. Ethan didn't know that today was the day I left on the boat. This day completely freed me, and also allowed him to be free. In the hospital office, Ethan packed up and came out in a good mood. Perhaps because he was in a good mood, he looked at his newly issued payslip and decided not to buy me the affordable bracelet, but to replace it with the same authentic model as Sophia's. Thinking about this, he called me. The number you have dialed is switched off. His brow furrowed, and he felt a vague sense of unease in his heart. Ethan, my brother, Sophia said, contentedly hugging him from behind after getting dressed. For the first time, he looked a little impatient and said, Sophia, stop it. I need to make a phone call. Sophia snorted, picked up her bag and was about to leave. It had become a habit for him to chase after Sophia over the years, and he subconsciously took a step. Suddenly, Nurse Jessica rushed over, looking very upset. Oh no, Dr. Ethan, Miss Emily, she already knows everything. She left on a boat. Ethan froze, asking, what's going on? At that moment, the news was being broadcast on the hospital TV, reporting that cruise ship 323, which had just left our city's pier, had unfortunately hit an iceberg while sailing and that everyone on board had died. Ethan stood there, with the sound in his ears like a buzzing noise. It seemed as if the whole world had collapsed in front of him. Nurse Jessica whispered, Dr. Ethan. Ethan snapped back to reality, suddenly grabbed Jessica's shoulders and exclaimed excitedly, what's wrong? What did you say? What did Emily find out? Jessica looked at him in fear and stuttered. She knows that every time we draw blood, the amount is far beyond the standard, and it's for Sophia's blood supply. She seemed very angry and just left with the plasma. Ethan suddenly recalled the indifferent look on his face 2 hours earlier as he stood next to the trash can. Ethan, what should I do? She's gone. Who's going to give me a blood transfusion? Sophia moved closer to him, and Ethan pushed her away impatiently, his voice full of annoyance. I told you I'm busy. Can you leave me alone for a while? Sophia was so aggrieved that she couldn't stop her tears, and she turned around and ran away. Ethan's hands trembled as he dialed the phone number of the person in charge at the dock. Hello. I'd like to ask about the list of victims. His voice caught as he said this, and then he asked carefully, is there a woman named Emily on the list? Please hold on a moment. I'll check. It felt like an eternity to Ethan as he waited for 5 minutes. He held the phone tightly, and his whole body was covered in sweat as if he had just come out of the rain. Miss Emily is not on the list. She didn't board the ship today. Ethan finally let out a sigh of relief, collapsed to the ground, wiped the cold sweat from his face, and said angrily to Jessica when he had recovered a little, I told you to be careful. Don't let Emily know. What now? Jessica said a little aggrieved. I didn't say anything. I really don't know how Miss Emily knew. Was it you? She glanced at the disheveled Ethan. Ethan looked very uneasy and couldn't help straightening his clothes. Still holding on to a last shred of hope, he walked home while talking on the phone. He thought to himself, maybe I'm not that heartless after all. After all these years of feelings, the most she'll do is get angry if she finds out. Opening the door to his home, the scene in front of him immediately snapped him back to reality. The room was in complete disarray. Today, before Ethan left the house, I had already packed up all my things. For the rest, the things in the house that belonged to Ethan, I broke them all. Ethan stood in the doorway for a moment, unable to believe it, before he rushed in, panic-stricken. Emily! Emily! He shouted, opening every door in the house, but I just couldn't find you. Ethan was shaking all over, cold sweat beading his forehead, and finally he collapsed onto the sofa. He took out his phone and called the police. Hello, I'd like to report a missing person. My wife has disappeared. She doesn't want to be with me anymore. By the end of his sentence, his voice had become choked, and he burst into tears like a child. That day, I didn't get on that cruise ship. As I was about to get in line to check in, I looked up at the birds in the sky and a strong urge suddenly came over me. When I was little, My father always took my sister and stepmother places, but never me. When I grew up, Ethan always reminded me that sitting in high places might affect my heart because I had a heart condition. My first flight never happened. This time I was determined to do something I wanted to do. The plane landed safely and I arrived in a small town by the sea. I sold most of the things I brought with me, put the previous house up for sale online, and now I'm temporarily renting a new house here. The only thing that's been giving me a headache is that I haven't been able to find a job. I studied business administration at university, but I can't remember any of the theory and I have practically no work experience. And because of my heart condition, there are many places I'm afraid to apply for. I started to reflect on the fact that there was actually a reason why I lost to Sophia. When Ethan said he didn't want me to be too tired, I willingly became a housewife. Sophia, on the other hand, joined the Michael group through Michael and has become a director with a glamorous life. She has left me behind in terms of both ability and vision. Fortunately, I'm still young and have the chance to start over. One day when I was looking for a job, I passed by the florist shop downstairs and the shop manager stopped me. She said, "Girl, it's about to be peak season, and I might not be able to handle it all by myself." I froze for a moment, then opened my eyes wide and understood what she meant. Our work is not too hard to say, but it's not particularly simple either. You're new here, so you'll need to start from scratch and learn about the types of flowers, how to trim them and how to wrap them. I know your situation, young lady, but I have to ask, do you still want to continue? My heart tightened. In the past, I always looked to others as my hope and support in life. In fact, the only person I should rely on is myself. I nodded firmly and replied seriously, I thought. The shop manager's sister smiled. Since then, I started working in the flower shop and learned from her every day. Although my hands were often covered in thorns from the flowers, my heart gradually felt more at ease. Sometimes, when I watched the news, I found out that Sophia and Michael had gotten engaged. However, Ethan was not in the picture. I kept taking medicine for my heart condition, but it didn't get better, and it didn't get worse either. The shop manager, who knew a little about me, sighed and said, "The world is really unfair. Good people don't live long, while the bad ones can live a long life." After coming to this city, I had already regarded everything in the past as something from the past. I never thought I would see Ethan again. When I saw him walk in the flower shop, I thought I was mistaken. Ethan looked very tired, his face was not looking well, and it seemed like he hadn't had a good rest for a long time. He came in with a slight tremor, looked me straight in the eye and said, "I want to buy 100 yellow roses to give to my wife." The yellow roses mean forgive me. I learned from the police that I was safe, but only after I went to another city. Ethan had planned to give up on finding me, but now that I knew the truth, I couldn't back down. Anyway, he didn't love me, and he had always loved Sophia. He was absolutely sure of that. For some reason, he was very upset every day now, and he could never sleep at night. He would often wake up suddenly, shouting, "Wife, Emily!" No one paid any attention to him anymore. One day, he suddenly went crazy and started investigating me. He contacted my former teachers and classmates to find out what kind of person I really was. One truth shocked him to the core. It turned out that I had actually been the one being bullied at the Smiths. My classmates told him that I had grown up with no food and no warmth, that I didn't even have a thick winter coat, and that I had frostbite on my hands. Sophia always wore beautiful new clothes and bragged to her classmates about how wonderful her father was. My high school homeroom teacher sighed and said, "Emily, that child is really quite pitiful. She did well in school, but her father never came to any of the parent-teacher meetings." Later I realized that her father only went to Sophia's parent-teacher meetings. Ethan's eyes reddened as he listened to this. He remembered what I once told him, "Ethan, I grew up with no one caring about me, only you were kind to me." At the time, he comforted me, saying that he would always be kind to me. In reality, he was laughing at me behind my back for pretending to be pitiful. He never really believed me, and always thought I was bullying Sophia. After this incident, Ethan began to doubt everything about Sophia. He collected Sophia's DNA and retested it. The result was another truth that made him collapse. Sophia was not anemic or suffering from any disease that required a blood transfusion. All of her medical records were fake. She just wanted to deliberately embarrass and torment me. Ethan was very angry and rushed to Sophia and threw the medical records in her face. "You don't have any anemia. You lied to me. You let me provide blood for Emily for so many years, and it was all a lie." Sophia laughed coldly and said nonchalantly, "Yes, I did lie to you. But so what? Ethan, You and I have been working together for so many years. If this is revealed, you'll lose your job. You're Emily's attending physician, and either shoddy treatment or illegal blood extraction can send you to prison for a long time. Ethan left confused, his mind a blank. He remembered something I had told him before. Ethan, I really want to live a good life. But he had never listened. For a while, he lost interest in his work and often couldn't stop crying, which caused several complaints from his patients. The hospital advised him to take some time off. Nurse Jessica saw this and sighed. Dr. Ethan, don't you really realize? You've fallen in love with Miss Emily a long time ago. Ethan looked up, his eyes a little confused. What? Every time you mentioned having to draw blood from Miss Emily, you said it was fine, but you still couldn't help frowning. In the end, when it came to the day of the blood draw every month, you always procrastinated. Ethan froze. He remembered the past. After each blood draw, he would personally make all kinds of nourishing soups for me, and wouldn't feel at ease until I had finished drinking it. He always thought it was out of guilt or compensation. But now he seems to understand that it might have been love. He has long been in love with me, but because of habit, he has been chasing Sophia. When he finally understood what he wanted in his heart, he made up his mind and immediately booked a flight to come find me. He wanted to tell me his remorse in person and sincerely hoped that we could start over. 800 yuan, would you like to scan the QR code or pay in cash? At the flower shop, I silently helped Ethan pick out flowers and handed them to him. Ethan's eyes were red, and he hurriedly tried to take money from his wallet, but his fingers trembled so much that he couldn't find it after several tries. I looked over and saw that there was actually a picture of me in his wallet. It was really funny. He finally handed me the money, but just as I was about to take it, he suddenly grabbed my hand. "Emily, let go!" I shouted, pushing his hand away. Ethan withdrew his hand and, in a hoarse voice, kept saying, "Emily, please give me a chance to explain." I was wrong, really wrong. I ignored him as I counted the money. The shop manager must have heard the commotion, because she came out of the break room. She glanced at Ethan and me, seemed to understand the situation, and came up to me and said, "Sir, please buy the flowers and leave. Don't disturb our work. If you continue to harass the staff, I will call the police." Ethan looked at me helplessly with reddened eyes and had to leave. The flowers he didn't get, I threw into the trash. But in the following days, Ethan followed me like a ghost. He didn't speak, didn't come close, but just followed me silently from afar like an abandoned puppy. Whenever I turned around, he quickly ducked his head to hide. At first, I thought about ignoring him, thinking that he was just having a momentary lapse of reason and would go away on his own after a few days without a response. After all, he is still the director of the hospital and has to go back to work. However, he has not left for 2 weeks. He looks more and more tired, with red eyes, and not only that, there is often a smell of alcohol on his body. Once, I noticed his hands shaking, and I couldn't help but stop and say, "Ethan, are you still going to be a doctor? Look at your hands. Look at what you've become." Ethan fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face, and said, "Emily, I was wrong. I was stupid to listen to Sophia. Now I finally understand my heart. I've always loved you. Can you give me another chance?" I really couldn't help laughing. Another chance? What kind of chance could I possibly give you? I'm dying. Isn't that what you want? It can be cured. Ethan excitedly patted himself on the face. It was always my fault. I was so confused. I didn't treat people well. Emily, come back with me. I'll give you the best treatment plan. Our hospital has recently made some new research progress. No, I coldly interrupted him. Ethan looked at me in surprise. You don't want to get well? Of course I do. I smiled, but every time I see you, I feel really uncomfortable, like my heart is stuck. I always think of the lies you told me. I took out my phone from my pocket and played the intimate recording Sophia had sent me earlier. Ethan immediately covered his ears. I'm sorry, Emily, I was drunk that day, and she suddenly took off her clothes in front of me, and I just couldn't control myself. Ethan, do you remember? You never had any contact with me. I laughed coldly. You said you were afraid that I was not feeling well, so you didn't dare to touch me. But your attitude towards Sophia is really strong. Don't tell me you love me anymore, okay? In fact, I have been living here for a while, and I feel that my health and relaxation have improved a lot. But since you came, I have to take more medicine. My voice is getting more and more excited, and my whole body is shaking. Ethan, If you want to make me collapse, just keep pestering me like this. Ethan's eyes were wide open, his expression dazed, as if he had just been struck by lightning. He wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. Finally, he left in a panic. That was the last time we met. After Ethan left, I thought he finally understood something and went back to his normal life. Until one day, while I was printing the flowers, the TV suddenly broadcast a news report. A man in New York City was arrested yesterday after accidentally pushing a woman down, causing her to die instantly. The scissors dropped to the ground with a loud sound. It was Sophia and Ethan. I nervously used my hand to find the relevant report. After Ethan returned home, he risked his reputation and reported Sophia to the police. As a result, Sophia, Ethan, and Nurse Jessica were all urgently investigated. Unexpectedly, this investigation also involved Ethan's hospital, because there were also a lot of illegal acts within the hospital, so they had previously been so relaxed about Ethan's report. Under the pressure of everyone's attention, Michael's family gave up on Sophia just as decisively as they had given up on me. Michael even went public, saying that I had liked Emily in the first place, that Sophia had deliberately seduced me, and that she had lied to me, saying that she was pregnant, so I had no choice but to announce our relationship with her. No one bothered to verify whether this was true or not, but obviously these words made my father very angry. He lost face in front of his relatives and told Sophia to leave the house. My stepmother tried to defend her, but my father slapped her and threatened to divorce her if she spoke again. My stepmother was immediately too scared to say anything. Homeless Sophia blamed Ethan for everything and had a fight with him. At that time, Ethan had drunk a lot, and during the scuffle, Sophia fell and hit her head on the corner of a table, bleeding profusely. Ethan was too drunk to call an ambulance in time. Sophia died of blood loss. She had been pretending to have anemia so that I would let her have a blood test. I never thought she would actually die from blood loss. It's really funny. I feel a mixture of emotions when I watch the news. Everyone who has hurt me in the past has received their just desserts. But instead of feeling any joy, I feel endless fatigue. Miss Emily, have you really decided to have the operation? From the hospital bed, my new attending doctor, Dr. Lee, asked me again. The heart disease treatment operation is still not very mature, and the risks may be very high. Risks? Death? I closed my eyes and recalled my life. All my experiences flashed through my mind like a revolving door. When I was young, I always felt that my father didn't care about me, and I was often bullied by my stepmother and Sophia. When I grew up, I developed heart disease, and my fiancé left me because of it. Then I met Ethan, and I thought he could help me, but in the end I realized that I was just a tool for him to please Sophia. I'm sure, I said, even if I really have to die, there's nothing in this world that I'm particularly attached to. Dr. Lee nodded and suddenly whispered, "Thank you," as he prepared the surgical tools. I was a little confused and asked, "Thank me for what?" Dr. Lee smiled and there was a touch of emotion in his eyes. In fact, I also worked at Ethan's hospital before. Later, due to some connections, my promotion opportunity was snatched away by someone else, and in my anger, I resigned and left my hometown to come to this hospital. So now that I see that hospital in an uproar, with all the senior management being investigated, I really want to thank you, Miss Emily, for cleaning up a lot of vermin in the medical profession. I froze for a moment, and couldn't help but smile bitterly in my heart. I never thought that what I considered bad luck would later help so many people. The lights for the operation came on, and I closed my eyes. I could hear the ticking of the instruments, which sounded like a countdown to me. Many years later, the shop manager's sister went abroad, and I used my savings to take over the flower shop. I set up a heart-shaped planter box in front of the shop, and I put different flowers in it every day. Next to it was a sign that said, "Friends who are sick, you are welcome to take a free flower. Believe in yourself and be your own role model, and you will definitely be able to live a good life." One day, I received a letter from prison. I stared at the familiar words on the envelope for a long time, but in the end I didn't open it and just threw it in the trash. I suddenly remembered when I first arrived in the city many years ago. I took everything I owned and sold it, including a bunch of fake jewelry that Ethan had given me. But I didn't expect the owner of the recycling shop to say that one of the pieces was a real Cartier necklace. Back then, I envied the necklace around Sophia's neck. In the sunlight, the necklace sparkled, and it made my eyes sting a little. Even now, I still don't understand why Ethan did this. Why did he buy the real thing and then lie to me and say it was fake? Was there even a shred of sincerity in his pretense? Was he unwilling to admit that he had fallen in love with me, so he even lied to himself? But I don't want to go digging for answers. Some answers become unimportant with the passage of time, and the past is, after all, the past.